generations honor the resilience, deep-rooted ties, and creativity that define the cultural fabric of this region. The striking deep blue jersey will be worn by the Sounders for the next 2 seasons to honor the club's deep connection with the Puget Sound and shared responsibility as stewards of the greater Salish Sea watershed. Backing up that commitment, the Seattle Sounders will donate up to $50,000 to benefit community charities around the Puget Sound region. To get your very own Salish Sea kit, visit lobbingscorchers.com/kit. That's lobbingscorchers.com/KIT.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. I'm Ari. That's Niko. We got a great show for you here this morning. We're going to be talking about the Seattle Sounders 1-1 draw at Colorado Rapids and everything that happened in that game, the Moose goal, the Jordan Morris injury, the Ferreira assist. We're going to talk about all of it. We're going to do some Ryan Kent discourse. We're going to be talking about the on-field fit of Jesús Ferreira with Albert Rusnák. Later on in the show, we're going to hit some league-wide stuff. Atlanta United, not doing too great. I got some thoughts on that. And maybe a little preview action of Inter Miami, Vancouver Whitecaps, CONCACAF Champions Cup. I think that's a blockbuster matchup right now. So excited to get into it. Niko, how are you doing here this morning?
Doing great, my friend. Like you said, and there's plenty to talk about, right? First off, the Sounders, of course, but I love that you're going to put in a little bit of Vancouver in there just because it's huge, right? It's huge because it really feels to me like either of these MLS teams can compete and win this tournament. I looked at that Cruz Azul Tigres game and was not impressed. So I think it's anybody's game. And Vancouver, man, over the weekend, I was watching the game this weekend, and man, they looked unstoppable.
I think they might be the best team I've ever seen. I'm excited to talk about that because I think you're right. Like, there's a decent chance that an MLS club could win CONCACAF Champions Cup this year. I think either one of these teams has the ability to do it, depending on who gets through. Vancouver, obviously, in the driver's seat. But Niko, let's start with this latest Sounders result: 1-1 draw at Colorado. And I think a good place to start with a draw is, I think anytime you have a draw, or at least 9 times out of 10, you're going to have one team that feels where it's a draw that feels like a win. Other team's going to feel like it's a draw that feels like it's a loss. I think this is a bit of a unique scenario where this is kind of a draw that feels like an L for both teams. For Seattle, it's frustrating that they couldn't see out the win here because they were ahead in the game in the second half, and all they had to do was keep the clean sheet. You know, that's easier said than done on the road against a team with Georgi Mihailovic and company. But if they had kept the clean sheet, they would have won that game. So that's a little frustrating on one end, but then more than that, how it ended with the Jordan Morris injury. He's just getting back. Now he's probably going to be out at least a couple weeks again. That was a downer of an ending. So I don't think it was really a draw that feels like a win for Seattle, even if the result itself was good, was fine. And then for Colorado, I don't think it feels like a draw. It's a draw that feels like a win either. I mean, in MLS, you want to be winning your home games. And frankly, with how the second half went, and the Navarro goal, which got waved off, they're going to be frustrated that they didn't win either. Niko, what are your just initial broader takeaways from this 1-1 draw at Colorado?
I first would agree with most of what you said. The main conclusion I got out of this is simple. It's just there's still a lot of work to do for the Sounders team. Before, when the team was struggling, my statement or my conclusion was always, it's not good enough. They showed us against Nashville what it can be. And here against Colorado, they just showed us there's still work to do. And that's all right. You go to Colorado, a difficult place to play, against a very good, very well-coached Colorado squad. I thought that the Sounders, look, they struggled in possession. They were imprecise. They were a little bit sloppy, especially building out of the back. You could tell that there is a huge need to figure out building out patterns or how to adjust things without Jackson Ragen. Because look, right now you have three very good defenders, but none of which are, I don't know if I like to call it the new age center back that can get forward with the ball, that is very comfortable with it, that their passing is beyond just average. And therefore, that was a clear struggle for the Sounders. I thought that although Colorado had most possession, and I thought that they were better with the possession, they weren't really dangerous. I thought that Mihailovic was
all set pieces.
I thought Mihailovic was very limited. I thought that Bassett wasn't getting in the spaces that he wanted. I thought that Navarro did not get the ball as consistently as he gets it in other games. And you're right. The best weapon for Colorado was always set pieces. And we knew this going in. And, we'll get to the goal and why and what could have been done better and what could or could not change for this team moving forward. But it is tough to see, part of our Friday show with Jeremiah, the number one thing I mentioned was you cannot, one, concede fouls in front of the 18, literally said those words. And then two, anytime that Mihailovic is on the ball on a set piece, you just got to be careful and you got to take extra precautions. So when I hear, Christian Roldan and Brian Smetcher talk about maybe not working enough on set pieces on that specific moment, it just doesn't sit well with me because, yes, I agree that this doesn't happen often, and I agree that sort of goal to the Sounders is not a reoccurrence. But whenever you're going into a game where you do have a little bit of a set piece specialist, you got to take additional precautions. So we'll see how that moves forward. But overall, like I said, I'll keep it very simple. There's just still work to do on pairings on the field, on adjustments without certain players. And if it wasn't for that Jordan Morris injury, I probably feel a lot better about that 1-1 draw than I do right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the set piece defending in general in this game was the biggest issue. Like you said, Colorado Rapids, they're always going to come at you with stuff like that. And it wasn't even just the Mihailovic goal. It felt like every corner kick that he took, someone was getting a clean header. And I thought the Rapids had a few pretty good looks from open play too. Honestly, there was the Bassett one that was off the post, off the Aymar giveaway, and they had a couple of other good ones too. But Seattle had their chances as well too. To be fair, I was actually pretty happy, I think, with the chance generation in this game. I thought the chance generation was good, and I do want to highlight the goal that Seattle did score because I think that is a big positive from this game. What I like about the goals that they're scoring right now, Niko, is that they're coming from like repeatable type sequences of play that seem like it's not like coming out of nowhere type goals. It's like you can
movements
tell that
look by design.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was just a really well executed play. Jesús Ferreira gets another assist. I think that puts him up to 5 on the season. So he continues to do good work as a facilitator. I know he had another open look that he hit into the 27th row this game. So you'd like to see him put that on target. But I think if he's getting on the stat sheet with assists, that's at least one positive as he continues to integrate with the team. I think KKR, there's a discussion with him as to a new discussion with him, I think, as to what the real upside is there. I think it's gone past like, is this guy an MLS player to, we know that now. It's just like, how high a ceiling an MLS player can he be? And then another really good finish from Moose. So that was a really good goal. It was good to see, but I think you do wish that they could have seen that out.
Look, a couple of things there. Look, one, Aymar probably had the worst game of the season, without a doubt. However, he is the guy that starts that play to get that goal that you're just praising right now. He has a very clever moment. Not clever, that's the wrong word. He's smart enough to quickly restart that free kick, puts the ball over the top of that midfield, sees Ferreira on a pocket. Ferreira brings it down perfectly. Ferreira takes his space, looks up, and like you said, as someone that has the privilege to watch practices every single day, this is things that they work on consistently, and you could tell because KK is literally running to that space as soon as Ferreira gets the ball, being mindful not to get too forward and play himself off sides. When he gets the ball, he looks up to Moose. He had already put one ball into Moose earlier that game that the goalkeeper kind of gets, and I thought maybe he didn't put that where he wanted it. And you could tell that that's where him and Moose have kind of been working on getting the ball to the specific spaces. So Gaymar, yes, he had a bad game. He will be the first one to tell you. I thought that the whole defense struggled to really get out of the back, but him specifically, there was moments that created potential transition moments. That yellow that he gets comes off a bad pass into Christian Roldan that gets picked off. The foul is on him. I mean, there was a lot of issues with Gaymar in this one, so clearly he's got to turn the page. It's kind of hard to criticize. To me, the most dominant defender that we've had since Chad Marshall, and the most consistent, without a doubt. He's been defender, either finalist or in the talk for defender of the year in MLS since he arrived here in 2020. So kind of hard to ask any more from Yemer Gomez Andrade, but definitely not his best game. With all that said, it all kind of goes into the basket of, hey, maybe this draw is not bad if our best defender didn't have his best game, if, we created some opportunities that we couldn't put away, if Ferreira kind of missed the sitter right in front of goal. So we'll take that draw. But there were a lot of things that maybe didn't go the way you wanted. I have some thoughts about the substitutions, but other than that, I mean, it was a game that I think Seattle played good enough to deserve that point on the road.
Yeah, I think you could pretty credibly argue that Seattle deserved to concede more than one goal in this game. But I think you could also credibly argue that they deserve to score more than one goal in this game. So that's kind of a wash to me. You hit on the substitution right there. I think that's a big topic from this game. So let's talk about that in a second. Before we get to that, I wanted to hit this from Michael in chat. Oh, that's the wrong one. Wait, where am I looking? Okay. He's bringing up the Navarro non-goal. That's what I wanted to talk about right here since you brought it up. Quite the uproar with that waved off goal. Sure seemed like a foul to me. Don't put both hands on the guy and jump straight up. I actually I see that one a little bit differently than maybe some people. I thought at the time and still think now after seeing the replay, I think that's a bad call. I think that is a good goal that should have stood on the field. I do think that once you do blow that whistle, you you literally can't overturn that. I don't think that's like a VAR. A foul is not like a VAR-able thing. So I did think that was a bad call and a bad break for the Rapids. I can understand why they're tilted about it. But Niko, my thing is that the Seattle might have gotten bailed out on that play. Colorado got equally, if not more, bailed out in this game earlier in the second half. That kid Jackson Travis Sims, I don't even know who that is. I think he was like making his MLS debut. He was on a yellow card, commits another yellow card foul, and instead of sending him off, the ref gives him a warning. He needs to be sent off there. Absolutely has to be sent off there. There is no debate. There's no question about it. If you look up a yellow card foul in the dictionary, that foul is what they'll have a clip in this. It's a virtual dictionary in this scenario. They'd have a clip of that exact foul. It's a yellow card foul 100 times out of 100. They should have been down a man for the entire rest of that game. So I don't feel bad at all that they got that goal taken off, even if it was a bad call, because the ref missed that one and he went over there and gave him a warning. And that's just not, that was ridiculous. So no, I don't feel bad about that. But anyway, what are your takes on that whole play?
Yeah, the referee was, below average at best. But going back to the call on Gaymar, to me, it's not a bad call. I think it's a soft call. I think it's one of those that can go either way, depending on the angle of the referee and depending on his first reaction. I mean, that's the way refereeing goes at times, is the referee's first decision to make the call, and he's got to stick to that. I think that there were hands on the back of Yamar. I think that although maybe he didn't fully extend his arms, there was a push to Yamar Gomez Andrade. It's kind of odd to see Yamar go down that easily. So I want to say that there was some push there. So to me, the foul stands. I have no issues. I could see where it could look soft or it could look like a bad call. But again, to the comment that was just said, don't put your hands, don't make it look like a foul if you don't want it to be a foul, right? And then it's on to the player. Yamar's not a player that's going to sell one. Maybe he did.
He might have sold that one. He might have,
but maybe he sold it because, like I said, you see the massive individual that Yamar is. It's kind of odd to see him just go down like that. But again, that's all part of the game, right? So if he did decide to go down and embellish, that's just part of the game, maybe. So
yeah, it's a smart play.
Gets that call. So for me, I have no issue with it. Going back to that call in the 46th minute for Jackson Travis, look, what I think happened was this: the first yellow to Travis was soft, and he was a little tangled on the left-hand side with Musovski. And I don't think that deserves a yellow, but he gives him a yellow. Yeah, so that's on the ref. And then the second one that he should have absolutely given him the yellow, you could tell he grabs his pocket and then he realizes who it is. And he's like, oh, damn.
Exactly.
I kind of gave him a soft yellow. I can't give him another one and get him sent off. And that's just wrong. That's not
wrong.
The way
if it's a yellow, then you can't base like whether or not you give the yellow on if you gave the guy one earlier. If it's a yellow, it's a yellow. And like, yeah, exactly. To see him like go to it, realize that, oh, if I give it to him, I have to send him off here. You got to send him off. You got to send him off. I don't like to be the complain about the ref guy. I'm just saying, you know, there was a lot of, oh, well, Seattle got bailed out. That goal should have counted. They should have been up a man the entire second half. So
it's a valid point to bring up because, I mean, if we were in court, you know, the back door to your statement is the fact that if Colorado Rapid fans are upset about that non-call or the call on that dismissed that Navarro goal, well, there you go. There's another instance that kind of goes the other way. So, you know, be happy, not be happy. It kind of is a wash.
Yeah, and to be fair, I haven't seen the Rapids fan base like crashing out that bad over the call. They were booing at the stadium, but that's to be expected.
It was funny to see Navarro and Yamar just kind of go at it.
Just in case there's any narrative out there that like, oh, well, this really should have been an L because of that 50-50 call on the Navarro goal. They should have been up a man the entire second half. Jared asks, has anyone heard any updates on JMO? Not since post-game when Schmetz said it was the hamstring. He said Jordan doesn't think that it's that bad, but we're going to find out this week exactly how long he's going to be out. If I had to guess, I'm just guessing, but.
And are we just assuming that it's the same hamstring? Because
I'm assuming it's a re-aggravation.
I wasn't on the presser, so I didn't. But I know nobody asked. But I guess we could assume that it is.
He didn't say it was the same one, but I think it probably was. And I think you're probably looking at another 2 to 4 weeks without Jordan Morris, which is unfortunate because he was, you know, just getting back into the swing of it. I was talking on the post-game show about how like the frustrating thing about it is I feel like you can't really gauge this team's true ceiling unless you see them run this stuff with Jordan Morris in there. I know Moose is playing really well right now. He's in form. He's scoring goals. But Jordan brings like a different dynamism to the table at that position with the runs he can make and how he can stretch the field in a way that Moose doesn't as much. So it sucks, but it is what it is right now. Niko,
it is what it is. But look, we can talk about the institutions because I think that
that's what
correlates with this. But what I want to know when it comes to Jordan is, and I'm going to ask, and I'm going to be persistent about it, is what was missed, right? What is it that the Department of Sports and Science and strength conditioning coaches missed on Jordan's hamstring? Because we knew that he was supposed to be back a game ago, but he kind of felt some tightness, right? And they kept him off. and they were okay by taking him off. What is it that they felt like he was good enough to play 45? Because Brian brings him in at half because he's ready for 45 minutes, and he gets injured clearly at the end line of those 45, which I guess if there was a thin margin, then it is what it is. But if there were any concerns with Jordan and there was no need to put him in 45, why do so? And look, I'm not going to put this on Brian, because Brian's not going to bring in a player that he hasn't been cleared to bring in. So I just want to know where the issue is, and what was it about this injury that was not assessed adequately.
Yeah, let's talk about how the subs were handled in this game, because leading into this game, the whole debate that we were having on our shows was, do you ride the hot hand, or do you get your returning starting DPs back in there? You just had this great performance against Nashville at home. Do you give that team another run that they've earned, or do you go back to what the original preferred starting 11 was? I was saying the whole time that I feel like after a game like that Nashville game, you run it back. You run it back, especially because the guys we're talking about are not 90 fit yet, obviously, or even 60 fit. So that's, in the coming weeks, it's more of a question. But in this scenario, I feel like it's perfectly justifiable to run back the same lineup that got that great result against Nashville. And that's what he did to start the game. But I think where you start to ask the questions is it seems clear that these were like pre-planned moves at halftime. Like they were like, we're going to give Moose 45 and then give Jordan 45. And then that obviously didn't end up working out. But my thing is like, I feel like you should be amenable to altering that plan based on how the game is going. The first half of this game was pretty shaky, at least for the first. I thought the first like half hour, honestly, was a little shaky. And I think you could argue that the lead Seattle took at the end of the half there was against what the run of play was for most of the first half. But the last few minutes of that first half, they were looking a lot more comfortable, a lot more in the game. They end up getting the goal and taking the lead. I think at that point, you could argue that maybe the calculation changes a little bit because of the uptick in performance at the end of the first half. The fact that you got a goal, the fact that Moose is the one who got the goal. So you still got him in good form. You don't really need to give Jordan that 45 based on the fact that you have the lead and how the game's going. So even if it was pre-planned, I think you could definitely argue that you should have changed the plan once you saw like how the end of that half went. How do you see it?
I totally agree. And it's unlike Brian to kind of pull the trigger on that substitution so quickly, especially because what you just said. I don't think that there was enough that went wrong in the first half to feel like you needed to change that immediately, specifically for Mostovsky, because he had a goal. He had, been pressing well. If you look at his heat map, I thought that he was moving well across that first half. I thought that the issues, once again, were retaining possession. I thought that neither Christian or Obed had a particularly good game. I thought that the distribution was bad overall. There were moments where it was either miscommunications or just bad passes, period, that just were not working for Seattle. And therefore, I don't think that there was any need to change Mostovsky. So I agree with you that this was a pre-planned substitution where it was like, look, we need to get Jordan 45, so we're going to bring him in here unless, I don't know, we're winning 2-0, 3-0. I don't know what the changes might have been if the score had been any different. But it was definitely something that was thought about, pre-planned, and then executed. That didn't go well. So I would agree with you that early was unnecessary. But at the moment, I didn't have an issue with it, because my thought was, if Brian's bringing him in, he's got to be cleared. They're 100% sure that he's fine. So I didn't think much of it. The substitution I had an issue with was Pedro de la Vega coming off as early as he did for Albert Rusnák. I'm not sure why we continue to... No, that's unfair. Let me rephrase that. The Albert Rusnák Ferreira playing dual 10s hasn't worked. And I know that you probably want to figure out how to make it work. But in this specific game and in the manner that it was being played, I thought that although Pedro was not particularly sharp, he was causing a lot of mayhem. I thought that him and Kalanick Kosariense were working very well on the right side. I thought that they were the most dangerous players overall. And Ferreira was giving you some through balls and was giving you a lot of link-up play and things like that. But if I had to pick between Pedro and Ferreira to come off in this one, I'm bringing down Ferreira because I need the dynamism that Pedro's giving me right there. So I had an issue with that one particularly, and I feel like you could tell that once again, Albert and Ferreira just didn't quite work in the second half.
I thought the Rapids did a pretty good job on De La Vega. They seem to be able to give him more trouble than most teams have been able to this season. I think their press in general was definitely giving Seattle issues. That's what they do. And that's the first like full Rapids game I've watched this year. And they've got that like kind of New York Red Bulls energy drink soccer going on. But you hit on it right there. That was the next topic I was going to get to. It's the title of the stream. But this whole experiment with Ferreira and Rusnak playing together, can they play together in a first choice 11? That's sort of the tactical debate, I think, coming out of this game, because like you mentioned, when that sub was made, it felt like it was kind of a lot of the same issues that we've seen so far this season when those two guys are playing together. They're playing the same position. They're playing the same position. They haven't figured out how to run it so Ferreira is not drifting too much centrally, and they're getting in each other's space and all that we've talked about ad nauseum. Noah and I have kind of differing schools of thought on this. Actually, he's been saying that the whole dual 10 experiment and them playing together, it's done, it's chalked. You need to mix and match and just rotate them based on like who you're playing and squad rotation, fixture congestion. You either start one or the other. I still think that it's early enough in the season where chalking any setup where two of your best, highest paid players on the field at the same time is not a good idea, just because, it's not a good use of resources to have one of those guys starting on the bench necessarily. And then also, I do think that Jesús Ferreira is a very smart player. He's a very adaptable player. It hasn't fully come to fruition on this team yet, but like I would be surprised if it just never, if they keep grinding it in training and like trying it in games and it still looks like the same way it has all season. Maybe it will, but I think you have to at least give it some more run, because you don't want a situation where you have to have one of those guys coming off the bench every time. Otherwise it just doesn't work. What do you think of them on the field at the same time? Is it possible to get it to a functional place, or you would know it? Should they just chalk that idea?
I think it's possible. I just think you got to work at it a lot more. And again, as someone that does get to see a lot of the training sessions and practice, I don't feel like there's been enough done. However, I think that now you're getting decisions made for you, because with Jordan Morris injured, now you have to look at your roster and say, I have one striker left. That is Danny Musovski. That is not ideal. So regardless of whether you like it or not, regardless of whether people in this chat or watching this show or whoever it is does not believe that Ferreira can be a striker, he has the striker designation in his name. And therefore, you got to try to figure out, look, if Jordan is out for X amount of time, or if he's not going to be ready, or if we're concerned that he's going to re-aggravate it even more, you're going to have to emphasize this in practice and figure out a way to make it work. Because again, Danny Musovski now, he's on this island on his own, and although he's been productive and he's been working, and let's say you start him off again at the 9 and he continues to work, you're going to have to figure out a way to give him a little bit of off time. You got to figure out a time when you're going to need him off. What happens if he cools off and he's unable to get this poacher type goals? you gotta have a plan B. And this has been my theme and song. I've been preaching this, with book in hand, just letting everyone know you need a permanent option aside from Masowski up top. So I'll ask this as well this week to Brian is there a way that a high IQ, soccer IQ individual like Ferreira can play your system and you can coach him so he works with a guy like Pedro and Albert behind him by going completely against his own design of play and his own, the way he gravitates and his instincts. Can you play Ferreira high enough, like sit him down, work the film and say, look, I know that you like to gravitate here, you like to come here, your instinct is to hit this pocket, but right now with the way things are working, we need you to be here and move up here. You have to figure it out, and that's going to have to go on the coaching. But what I don't want to happen is that you're going to rely on Masowski for the rest of the time that Jordan is not here, whether it's good or whether it's bad. That is my only concern. You can have him. You can have Masowski continue to play. I have no issue with that. But you got to be working on Ferreira playing that position if there's a need to do so.
He can't play. Moose can't play every minute of every game. Like you have to have an alternative setup. It's funny. I was a couple weeks ago when the Sounders played FC Dallas. I was talking to Sam Hale of the FC Dallas radio network. He suggested a shock collar for Ferreira when he starts drifting too far towards midfield. Just give him a little buzz. Like I think maybe they need to do something like that to really get him to, like you said, kind of just play that position in a different way. That's more like a conventional forward than a number 10. And like by necessity, they're going to have to figure out, I think, a better way to get Jesús Ferreira and Albert Rusnak working together. But I don't know. I think we might overcomplicate these things or put too much weight on position at times. Like, yes, they need to figure out how to play off each other more, not get in each other's spaces. But at the end of the day, like if you get two talented guys like that on the field together and you have them work on it in training, you really should be able to get it to a place that's like at least more effective than we have been seeing. So let's hope that they can progress on that. Ryan Kent, Niko, another cameo in this game. I continue to really like what I'm seeing from this guy. I like how saucy he is on the field. He's got that kind of that swagger and flashiness to his game that I think everyone's been excited to see more of. And that's another factor with this JMO injury. I think you're going to see him get even more minutes probably than he would have otherwise. But to me, it's pretty clear that the talent is evident. What he can bring to this team in terms of just like the energy and technical ability and being goal dangerous and all that. I think we're seeing glimpses of that. What are your thoughts on Ryan Kent after our second look at him? How do you want to see them use him going forward?
Yeah, look, first of all, there's nothing that I can say about Ryan Kent that I haven't already said, that I haven't already seen in practice over the last couple of games, other than he looks just as good on the field as he does in practice. And the reality is that you're going to have to find a way to bring him in and utilize everything that you just said, that he has all those skill sets in his bag. He's a guy that's creative, that can move around, whether it's completely on the white channel, he can come inside. He has fantastic delivery of the ball, which is something that you can absolutely use. Although I will credit Paul Rothrock because he's been so much better on his passing and his decision making. But with Ryan Kent, you get someone that perhaps has a pedigree a little bit higher, and maybe that's unfair to Paul, but he just definitely looks like the real deal. So to me, the best way to use Ryan Kent is in a 4-2-3-1 formation, allowing him to be higher up the field, taking away a lot of that defensive obligation. Because look, you're going to have to defend no matter where you play, and that's just Metro Ball, right? But whenever and this comes from Paul Rothrock himself, the difference between the wing back and the winger is that there's a whole lot more responsibility, a whole lot more running. And if I am Brian Schmetzer, I want to try to exploit what Ryan Kent does best, which is that attacking side and that creativity and that flair and everything that we've seen over the last couple of games, whether it's the no-looker pass or the little back heel or someone that just understands the game almost at a different level, I guess, just because of the pedigree and the way he's kind of grown up with the game. So I love it. I think that beyond his skill set on the field, he's a guy that just radiates confidence and that is going to give any defender issues. And that's all you can ask is whenever I see Ryan Kent coming in, the opposition and the other coach is saying, hey, man, we need to shift to that side. We need to make sure that we know where this guy is at because that just opens up spaces for everyone else. So I just think Ryan Kent is going to be an issue. He's going to be a problem. And with everything that we've talked about and, whether Jordan Morris is going to be ready or not, you're going to need more of those talented players that are also dangerous and can be hard to handle in the final third. And I think the rank can provide you with all of that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a knock on Paul Rothrock at all to say that Ryan Kent brings just like kind of a different type of pedigree. I mean, this guy was one of the best players in the Scottish Premiership for Rangers for a pretty lengthy period of time before he hit this point in his career where he's been out of action for a while. But I mean, Michael says right here, only thing that makes me sad about Kent is I know he won't be here long term. I wouldn't necessarily be so sure about that. If he was like early 20s, I'd be like, yeah, if this guy balls out, he's out of here. But I think with Ryan Kent, with what he's been through the last couple of years, he's just looking for a place where he can be happy, play footy, have fun, enjoy the game with his teammates, all that stuff. If he really feels like this is a place where this is a place that gives that to him and he's feeling happy off the field and like he's fitting in and likes the city and all that, he might decide that he wants to stick around. What do you think about that, Niko?
I think the issue has an X in the equation, a factor that we don't know, and it's the salary cap and his demands salary wise. Right now, he clearly comes in at a very low salary. And that's obviously because of the situation he's in, the situation the Sounders are in. But moving forward, let's say he does ball out. He's clearly have been used to getting paid a certain amount. He's been at a whole different level. He's going to feel like he's got a little bit of leverage if, let's say, he balls out like we were just saying. So I think that remains to be seen. It'll be good for Seattle regardless of that. Ryan Kent has a fantastic 2025, regardless of what happens in the future. But I feel like we will know if he will stick around depending on what that option looks like for next year, because the club does have an option on him. So what that looks like, I'm intrigued of. I have not heard of the numbers. And then what does that look like moving forward? I think that's going to be the real deciding factor on this whole thing.
Yeah, and at this point, I just want to see what he can do with a bigger complement of minutes. Like these cameos, exactly. We've seen some good stuff, but what could he do if he gets 60 minutes? Like enough time to actually make a pronounced impact on the game. It's exciting to think about, and as much of a bummer as this JMO injury is, that is one thing that I'm excited about in the coming weeks here is just seeing what this guy can do. Because, like I said, man, talent is very obvious. Niko, anything else from this Colorado game that we missed? Am I missing anything obvious, or do you have any other takeaways on where things stand coming off this game and looking forward?
Yeah, the only thing that I wanted just to add and press on is that you're going to have to figure something out. And I said this briefly, but I really want to emphasize it. You're going to have to figure out how you're going to work out the build-out patterns, and maybe without Jackson Ragen, it is better to just go back to a four-man back line, to a 4-2-3-1 rather than the 3-5-2 or the 3-4-2-1, just to simplify things in the back end a little bit. Because look, Kim did not have as bad of a game as perhaps Yamar and knew who at times did against Colorado, but he clearly was not comfortable coming out of the back like we knew. Everything that we've praised about Kim was how the simplicity in his game just makes him the right guy and makes you feel comfortable with him there. But with the current build out and the way things work out for the Sounders, if a team's going to press you the way Colorado did, you're going to have to figure something else out where you bring one of those midfielders in to help you with the build. That is something that Seattle used to do consistently. I think that's something that you're going to have to do just to keep yourself from having situations like you did in this past game and situations that you continue to move forward as you move on. St. Louis, they're going to press you. St. Louis is going to make you uncomfortable. So what are the adjustments that the Sounders are going to have to do without a guy like Jackson Ragen on the field? So I just think that is something that needs to be looked at. And as much as I know that Yemer Gomez-Andrade has been one of the best defenders in MLS since he got here, I also understand that passing and getting out of the back is not his strength, right? He's fast enough where he'll get past players. I don't want to call him shifty enough, but he can get around a striker at times. But you saw what happened against Colorado this week. Is something that could happen. His passing at times is good because he's willing to make the difficult pass, but he'll probably make that difficult pass 3 or let's say 2 out of 5 times. And that's just not good enough for what Seattle is currently playing like in their own system. We can't even talk about Nuhu coming out of the back because I don't want him with the ball back there, although he's another player that could be shifty enough and he could move around enough where things happen. But once again, it could be an issue if he's pressed consistently, if things don't go his way, if he does a little scissors and they don't come out. I mean, you just don't have the Jackson Ragen type right now, so you're going to have to modify that. One of my few criticisms at times are for Brian Smetzer is that he likes that plug and play. We talked about plug and play with Ferreira and Moose and Jordan. Hasn't worked at center back right now. You're going to have to figure something else out. Because if you continue to move on with the same mentality, the same concepts, with guys that can exactly execute those, it's going to be an issue.
It's a good call out. They miss Jackson Ragen a lot. People have been giving Jackson a hard time this year because there's been a few individual errors that have led to goals or big chances. But one of his biggest assets, like you said, is his passing out of the back, specifically his long passing. He's one of the best long passing CBs that I've ever seen. And it brings a lot more to this team offensively than I think we probably shed light on. We kind of take it for granted, I guess. And I think, you saw an example in this game of, Kim Yamar. That's a good pairing. If we're talking about purely defensively, but if we're talking about playing out of the back, long passing, that multifaceted nature that Jackson Ragen brings to the position, it feels like there's something missing there. There's something missing there. And they're going to have to figure out how to play without that, because it's a pretty unique attribute. And they're kind of lacking in that area without him right now.
But there are ways to, if you feel like Kim and Yamar and Nuhu are good enough to take that risk that maybe I don't have that guy out of the back, then there's ways to change it. There's ways to adjust around it. You play direct. You play more forward. You, change it up a little bit where you're kind of going off of the secondary balls rather than just being fully in possession. Or, like I said, you use and you utilize your center midfielders a lot more where they're coming in consistently and being that guy out of the back. Look, JP used to do it all the time for this team where he was the first guy on the ball in the build-out because he was a great distributor. So can you do that now again? I don't necessarily know if Christian's good enough in distribution. He's no JP when it comes to getting out of the back and his passing skills, but he's good enough to be able to know what to do with the ball, to get forward on the ball. So you just got to change things up. You need to. It's okay to understand your limitations and the fact that you have great defenders, but maybe not great defenders on the ball. It's all right. But as long as you understand that and you know how to adapt from that, then everything's all right.
B. Cheesemo asks, do you think Kim and Ragen would work as a good pairing? I think Kim and Ragen, Yamar Ragen, both work. Because I mean, like we were saying, Kim and Yamar, you got guys that they can lock it down defensively when they're 1v1s, good in the air, all that stuff. If you put either one of them with Ragen and his passing ability, I think that works. How do you see that, Niko?
I think it could work. I feel like Jackson has created a big rapport with Yamar because of Yamar's recovery speed. He feels very comfortable being able to get forward with the ball, and the guy that kind of corrects his mistakes is Yamar Gomez Andrade. The issue is when Yamar's coming out of the back and he's the one making the mistakes, there's nobody quick enough to get back. I got to praise Kim, though, in that mistake that Yamar had coming out of the back that creates that goal and that shot on the post. Kim maybe doesn't get there, but he's quick enough to pressure that runner, and that's why he doesn't have a comfortable angle, and that's why the ball goes where it went. So Kim, again, I can't say anything negative about him because he's just been good at what you're supposed to do as a defender, which is defend. And the guy clearly has enough of the wheels to get back and track back. But I feel like the pairing with Yamar and Kim and Yamar and Jackson is something more than I would like to see. Call it, biased if you will, but I'm not going to bench a player that has been as dominant in the position as Yamar has been. Just look at the stats: clearances, interceptions, duels. The guy's been at the top list of MLS since 2020.
Niko, let's talk about this St. Louis game real quick, and then we'll hit some MLS and CCC to close it out. St. Louis, it's a team that Seattle's already played this year. They went to St. Louis in March and lost 1-0. That was the game where Edward Lewin bammed the free kick like 15 minutes in, and then they just sat on that the rest of the game and Seattle ended up losing that 1-0. That was a frustrating game, and they're going to be looking to rectify that. I think when I look at this St. Louis team, that's the only full game of theirs I've watched this year, but I watched all the highlights, and I follow them decently well. And this is a team that I don't know. I'm going to try and line up a guest to talk about them this week, but like it doesn't seem like they really give a rip about scoring goals. Like this new coach that they've got in there, it seems like he is very committed to we're going to play bunker ball a little bit. If we have to 0-0 every week, that's fine with him. And you can see that in most teams in the league right now, they're up at 15 to 20 goals scored. A lot of teams are at 10, 15 goals conceded or whatever. It looks relatively similar if you go up and down the table and look at it. St. Louis right now has 7 goals scored, 8 goals conceded. It's like every game is 0-0, 1-0, 1-1. There's not a lot of deviation going on there. How do you see this St. Louis team right now, and what do you think Seattle needs to do to win this game?
Well, I mean, the good thing is that Seattle's already played them, right? And they know some of the things that this team does well and doesn't do well. I agree with you that they are a team that their main job is to make you uncomfortable, make you break them down. And therefore, they're willing to play without the ball. They're willing to play a lot deeper. That's something that Seattle has struggled with in the past. I feel like this year they've been better at breaking teams down. The reality is that this team is going to make it difficult for Seattle to move the ball from their own end into St. Louis side. And whether it is through breaking lines on the ball or being dynamic enough to kind of break that down for St. Louis, it's going to be a difficult game. I do think that they're a team that gets forward very easily. They like to go direct. You saw the issues that Hardo brings on every single time that he's on the ball. I think Celso Pompeo was a guy that they've missed for a while. He's a guy that can get on the ball, that's good on the 1v1s. I'm interested to see how Sandy Silva eventually kind of fits into this grouping. Klaus is a striker that he can be streaky, and he's going to create some issues on the physical end. He's going to want to pivot. He's going to want to do a lot of link-up play, and I feel like that plays to Seattle's strengths. I've said it consistently. I feel like Seattle usually has more issues with a Navarro type of striker than they do with a Klaus type of striker. And you saw it with Peter Musa. You saw it with the Nashville guy, Serge. Serge, same thing, right? It's a lot easier for them to kind of handle that sort of big physical type of striker. So I feel like a lot of the things that St. Louis does offensively plays to Seattle's strength. So that's why I'm a little confident about that going forward into this game. The issue is going to be how you break down St. Louis. And honestly, the question marks that Seattle has on the attacking end.
It's going to be a good test to see if you can break down a team that's going to be sitting in. St. Louis has only scored in 4 of their 10 games. But they did almost beat LAFC last night.
They did.
They had that game. They were ahead 2-1. It was kind of a crazy ending. They got an own goal in the 89th minute to go ahead 2-1. They were about to win that game, and then Denny Bouanga scores in the 95th for LAFC to salvage the 2-2. But St. Louis is coming off a game where they scored twice, which is a big step for them. So we'll see if they can build.
And they're going to be a team that's good on set pieces, like every good defensive team is. They're going to take their chances. They're going to be selective on the way they counter. Like I said, they do like to get out wide, and they do certainly use certain players to make sure that they can win those one-on-one battles. But yes, they're very limited. I feel like Seattle can, without a doubt, do enough to keep them away from scoring, but can Seattle score? Can Seattle break them down? That's the big question on this one.
Niko, let's get into some league-wide stuff as we get into our last couple topics here. If you guys got any other questions or topics you want us to hit, feel free to drop them in chat. Also, like the video, sub to the channel, rate 5 stars, all that stuff. Niko, the team I wanted to talk to you about first, Atlanta United. I think it's so interesting what's going on down there right now. This is a team that I was praising their offseason. I bought into it again. I bought into all the, Bocanegra, he was the problem. Garth hasn't had a chance to really make this his team. This is his team now. He got that Arthur Blank money, and he went out and spent $22 million on Latte Loth. They went out and they brought Miguel Almiron back for another $10 to $12 million or whatever that was. I said that was a great move. I called it the best move any club has made all offseason. I said that, Niko. I said that. I'll admit that. I said that at the time. But I stand by like why I thought that. But if you look at how it's worked out, they are officially off to the worst start in the history of their club. They have lost each of their last 2 games 3-0. Ronnie Dela is on the hot seat already, straight up. That the fan base is talking about that. And there's I've been following this a lot. There's a lot of questions about the just inherent culture of the team. There's questions about the effort that players are putting in on the field, how much they even care about representing that club, which every time the Sounders lose, every time you get somebody going the effort was, and I always kind of just dismiss it because I'm never going to call out effort unless it's very, very, very clear that a guy is loafing it. And I feel like it's been pretty rare, if ever, where we've seen a Seattle team really phone it in on that end. I've watched a lot of Atlanta United because I'm trying to see what's going on. It's absolutely a fair question for fans to be bringing up when they watch that team play. It looks like they're phoning it in. Niko, what do you attribute this to? And also, is this changing the way you look at Garth Lagerwey at all? Because let's be real, if we're talking about who to blame for what's going on in Atlanta, who else is there left to look at? There is no Boca anymore. There's no other players from holdover regimes that you've had to keep or whatever. This is his team. So why are they this bad?
All right. First of all, we got to slow it down on the guard thing, simply because clearly he's not necessarily the. We know that he's going to have a say when it comes to soccer operations, but his job is completely different. He's handling more of the entirety of the organization. So that alone gives me a way to say, look, that it's not all on him. He has had different sporting directors. He brings in the best in Chris Henderson.
Yeah.
They are a proven duo. I know you and I both know Chris. He's one of the most intelligent guys in the business.
Absolutely.
One of the best in the business. You got basically two of the best GMs, if you will. Let's just call them that for right now. In the last decade, together, again, with a backing of millions and millions of dollars. So the Sounders in steroids. And yet it's not working. For me, there's clearly at fault on Garth and on Chris and the decisions that were made to bring in Ronnie Dyla. But this is a talented squad, and it's not working. For me, it's the coaching, man. I watched every single game of Atlanta United this season, no doubt. Maybe one I might have missed 90 minutes, went back, and I think I did I like to fast forward and stop and go whenever I'm in a rush to watch something. I want to say one game, I forgot which one it was that I did that, but I've watched almost 90 minutes of every single game of Atlanta. And there's always a reoccurring way that they lose or draw games. And it is, they shoot themselves in the foot. It's mistakes from the back, it's errors on easy giveaways, it's leaving the ball in vulnerable positions, it's a lack of effort where a player is not coming back enough, they're not tracking, there's no communication. To me, that all goes back to the coaching. So yes, because you have obviously two guys that are as ingrained into the soccer culture as they are in Garth and Chris, there's got to be some culpability there. And let's say there's got to be a big one. I'll probably put more on Chris than I would on Garth, because he is the guy that is the guy on soccer operations. He is the guy that's supposed to be on top of this project. But at the end, it's maybe Ronnie Dyla is just not fitting. And it is something that we've seen consistently in Atlanta, regardless of who's in the front office. They've brought in a whole bunch of coaches that don't feed the culture. They don't fit with the players, right? It happened with De Boer. It happened with Heinze. It happened with, I don't know, Gonzalo. People seem to think that he didn't fit with certain players. So regardless of what it is, there's something beyond the front office. And Garth has done everything in his power since he got there to change it. He got rid of a whole bunch of dead weight, got rid of a whole bunch of players that there were the same questions. Do they care enough? Do they play enough? Moreno, Sosa, Almada, all of these players that, were just dead weight on their salary cap. He brings in and changes it up completely, and it's still not working. To me, this specific group of players is good enough. The only one that's leaving me some doubts is Marinchuk. Solis, I feel like, is not a player that was, I don't know if he was brought in by Garth or not, but he's another player that I do not like. I don't feel like
he's the Polish guy, right?
The Polish guy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that this regime brought him in, and he was supposed to be like a big game changer, got talked up a lot, has been a bust. Marinchuk, I think, has been pretty much a bust. I agree with what you're saying about coaching. I think with hindsight, looking back at the Ronnie Dyla hire, was this guy did he have as good a resume as we were told? He won MLS Cup with NYCFC, but if you remember, that NYCFC team was not like a super great dominant team during the regular season. It was an instance of a team that got hot at the right time, which is fine. You get the trophy all the same for that. But maybe that's something that in hindsight where it's like that wasn't the right hire. But if the issue is the coaching, and that's why this team is underachieving as much as they are, then don't you have to look at who hired the coach?
Absolutely. And that's where that goes, right? That is absolutely it. That is where that goes. And even if there were all the right, check marks, former MLS coach, winner. It's coming from Europe, highly qualified. If it's not a fit for the group that you're bringing him into, then absolutely it's on the front office, right? And considering that Chris Henderson was brought in a little bit later, I guess you could absolutely put that on Garth, because if there is nobody below Garth at the time when the hire is made, then it's specifically on him. So I guess that's where you could really add on more of the culpability to Garth Lagerwey. But it's just odd. It's odd that you have two of the most brilliant minds in managing a team and they still can't figure it out. There's got to be an issue bigger than that. But to me, it all goes back to the coaching and the culpability to the front office is bringing that guy in and not figuring out whether he doesn't fit or not. But you look at the squad and the talent is there. And against Orlando, they were horrific.
Terrible.
They were horrific. They did not shoot on goal.
Nope.
They didn't get a real clear shot on goal. And they were beaten again on mistakes coming out of the back that are so clear. I think it's the third goal where Muriel is not even a high press from a striker that, his fitness and his speed is not his forte. And it's a bad clearings that the new Croatian DP gets. Then he gets it on top of the box. He takes his space. There's no immediate pressure to him. And then he just puts the ball in the back of the net. I mean, it's so simple. It's so easy to beat this team that it's just, I don't understand it. Like it's mind-boggling how bad they are with as much talent as they have.
If I was Arthur Blank, I would be like, what the hell, man? I just gave you guys $30 million. That's like a $5 bill to me. I don't really care about that, but the team should be better than this,
Yeah.
Like it's confounding. It's confounding. And I'm definitely, I mean, I think it's kind of funny. So I'm going to keep definitely keeping tabs on their downfall. Maybe it gets better, but I don't know. I've been, everyone should subscribe to Five Stripe Final. I've been consuming a lot of their content just out of curiosity, and, the fan base, there's like an uprising right now. They're not happy. Niko, let's talk some CCC. We got this second leg on Wednesday of Inter Miami versus Vancouver Whitecaps. I was covering the first leg last week. That's why we had to reschedule under the lights. But the Vancouver Whitecaps might just be the best team ever. They might be the best. I think they're just the best. Like, there was a period of time where I was like, all right, this could just be a really hot start. We've seen teams get off to really hot starts before and then cool off, and it becomes apparent that they might be good, but they weren't that good. I think this team is just really like that. Like, I think they are one of, if not the best teams in the league right now. They've been doing what they've been doing without Scottish Messi. Ryan Gauld hasn't even been playing. They're still dominating. They handled Miami pretty comfortably in that first leg. They get the 2-goal lead. They keep the clean sheet. That's against Messi and the Barca boys. That's absolutely as much as you could ask for. LAFC got up on them 1-0, and it didn't matter. But Vancouver at least got the second goal. Sebastian Berhalter looks like a star. Like, he looks like one of the best players at that position in the league. They played at Minnesota was it last night? Yeah. It was yesterday.
Afternoon,
at Allianz Field, which Minnesota, they're a pretty good team, honestly, so far, at least this year. And you're playing, their home field is a very hard place to play. It's a crazy environment. They have a great crowd. Vancouver, they won that 3-1, and it looked like they didn't even break a sweat. Like, they just handled them like they've been handling everyone this year. So I guess the question is, I don't think a 2-0 aggregate after leg one against this Inter Miami team is, they're by no means out of the woods. Like, they're going to have a hard time seeing this out. But I, like most teams, pretty much every team, I would be like, all right, Inter Miami is probably still going to win this. I even said it in the last series when LAFC was, up 1-0 after the first leg, and everyone was like, oh, they might do it. They're going to do it. I said no chance the entire time. 1-0 is not enough. I'm pretty sure Inter Miami is still going to win it. That's exactly what happened. But I'm looking at this one and I'm like, I think the Caps have every great opportunity to do this. Like, they are good enough to pull this off. How are you sizing up this second leg?
I think that Vancouver's going to win. I think that they're going to pull the result. I think that they'll end up drawing a 1-1 or something in that manner.
That's all they need.
But for me, Vancouver was going to win or lose this series in the first leg. And I said it. I said, look, Vancouver might not have the stars, might not have a better roster, but Vancouver is the better team overall as a collective unit. They're the ones. I've always said the soccer's about current form, and they had way better current form than Miami at the time. Miami was coming from a Columbus game that they should have lost, and they didn't because Columbus allowed Miami to stay in the game the entirety of it. They could not put the ball in the back of the net to save their lives, but Miami was an emergency defense all game long, and they win that game on one opportunity, one pass to Cello. Cello puts it in the middle, and Kramaski puts it in the back of the net. That's how they beat Columbus. But Vancouver had been balanced the entirety of the season. They were just a better squad coming into this one. So I laid it all out. I actually got, I like to go to the casino and do my thing. And man, that was a big win for me because I really see Vancouver as a team that can hold you up. Defensively, they could overpopulate the midfield. They're gonna force you to play centrally. They're not gonna give you nothing out wide. They have excellent dual play players like Pedro Vite that to me has to be in the MVP conversation. He's been outstanding on everything he does for Vancouver. Against Minnesota, he had 2, should have had 3, should have had a hat trick. He misses the sitter right in front of the goal. But Vancouver is just a quality squad. Look, they rotated completely for Minnesota. Ocampo wasn't in there. I mean, this is a team that even when you're switching and shifting players, they know what they're playing. They whenever you have a team that has an identity and they know how to execute it and have the players to do so, sky's the limit. And when you got a guy like Brian White that can score anything that's in front of him, you're just giving yourself a better chance every single time. When you got a guy like Pedro Vite, you got a guy like Cubas. Cubas is the guy that's completely underrated because he does all the dirty work. He's the guy that's a disruptor. He picks up the ball. He plays simple. He's easy. But that's what you need when you have a balanced squad. So to me, we're looking at the best team in MLS without a doubt. For those that like statistics, they have the best goal differential, 13 plus. They are tied for the most goals scored with Portland in 20. And the differential comes in the fact that they don't concede a lot because they are a balanced team. They do stay disciplined. They have a great shape. So, man, I'm sold on Vancouver. I mean, I am sold, and I think that they'll get a result against Miami, and it's not going to be a surprise. It's going to be a given. And to me, they're going to be able to get through. And essentially, man, they can get out there and beat Tigres or Cruz Azul. Look, I watched the Cruz Azul Tigres game, and I'll be very brief, but it was sloppy. It looked like a week 1 sort of matchup. It was boring, to be honest, till about the 65th minute. And I think that Vancouver has a lot of ways, and we'll talk about it if it does happen, but I think Vancouver has a lot of weapons to exploit what either Tigres or Cruz Azul do wrong.
It's a great example of why things like team building and identity and infrastructure and conviction in what you're doing, why all that stuff matters, honestly, just as much, if not more, than the money you spend or anything like that. Look at these two teams we're talking about right now. Atlanta United, $22 million on Emmanuel Latte-Loth, 30+ mil total when you throw the Almiron transfer fee in. Disaster. Latte-Loth is scoring goals, but it's not making a difference. Almiron signing is looking like a bust. Why is it that it's so terrible down there? And the Vancouver Whitecaps, who have Brian White, a 2018 MLS Super Draft pick, leading the line, comfortably outplaying the guy with the $22 million transfer fee. It's because they're run intelligently. It's because they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They know what they're looking for. They know what their identity is. They know what their play style is. They know what types of players fit that. They don't need to spend $22 million on one player to try and kind of shortcut their way into being dynamic and productive in attack. And then, like you said, just all around well-balanced. A guy like Pedro Vite, I love the MVP shout for him. He's probably the best player in the league at that position right now. I already shouted
I
out
agree.
Berhalter, but Berhalter, I mean, did you see the score that Berhalter scored yesterday?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God.
And if you go back to the leg one against Inter Miami, he's in there too. I mean that the beautiful thing about this Vancouver team is that they can move and rotate, and Berhalter sometimes will come off the bench, sometimes he'll start, and he'll be just as good. He's on a run where he knows where to be, he knows how to exploit it, how to make runs into the box, and he's lethal when he does.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what you said. This is the best team in the league right now. I think they have a great chance of taking down Inter Miami, and I kind of hope they do it. I kind of hope they do it because
I wouldn't mind it.
Inter Miami is an example of a team that what they did, you can't argue with it. They loaded up in a way that no other team has ever been able to load it up. But it feels like the success that Vancouver is having right now, it's like they really earned it. They didn't just like throw money at a big time player and like hope that they really they put the work in, they put the effort in. Now they're reaping the benefits, and they're kind of looking like a model for what teams that maybe can't spend as much as everyone else can do. And like they're showing that you can build a team like that and not only be successful but be dominant. So it's a fun storyline.
I was just shocked that they rotated the entire team, stayed in the game with Minnesota the entirety of the game. Then, of course, they brought in Vitae, and they were able to benefit off of that. They clearly brought in Berhalter, but they left Brian White on the bench, and it didn't matter, man. I mean, this is a team that just knows exactly what they want to do, and it seems like everybody's bought in. And sometimes that's infectious. And if you're able to rotate your entire team, hold it off, bring in a couple of guys, and win 3-1 against a decent to good Minnesota team that had everybody in, man, that's just praise to the coach, praise to the group. And sometimes when teams get hot, man. And they just are red hot. They're just, man, just unbelievable.
Imagine how good they're going to be when Scottish Messi comes back. He's one of the best players in the league. Like, he's a guy who's in the MVP conversation, at least on the fringes of it, every year. Yeah. They literally they've had him for like what, 3 or 4 games, if that. I don't even know. But like, it's crazy to think about like that. This isn't even their ceiling. Their ceiling is going to be determined when he gets back. So,
and we'll see. I mean, Rios and Nelson have done such a good job of
Nelson is
doing a lot of things, man. And Rios could play out wide. He could play, center forward. He could do so many things. Man, it's just Ryan Gould's going to have to come in and really re-earn his spot in some sort of way, and I'm sure that he'll get a chance because he was injured. It's not something that he could control, but when he does, man, it's going to be difficult if it doesn't have the same fluidity, if they're not as dynamic as they are, because they like to counter, man. They like to just pop it and go. I mean, they're not afraid to just withstand pressure, absorb it, and then go. That maybe I don't know if Gould can make that any slower or not, but either way, this is a team that, again, it's all about the collective unit rather than the star power.
Exactly. All right, Niko, I think we're about out of time here. Anything else that you wanted to hit on or plug or promote before we get out of here?
Watch out for Portland. Portland looks good. Portland has depth. We're going to get a chance to see them here, obviously. It's going to be interesting what type of lineup they put up against the Tacoma Defiance, but especially on the attacking end, man, they can go. Anthony was a baller yesterday, playing a wingback position that he didn't necessarily play, and 2 assists, a goal. I mean, the guy was just outrageous. Cabecita Rodriguez came in, he did well. He earns a PK. They allowed Galaxy to get back into the game, and I think that's Portland's Achilles heel, is a little bit of the defensive organization and discipline. But man, Portland looks good.
They're good. They did channel their inner Timbies in the second half there, like you said, letting the Galaxy cut it to 3-2 after they were ahead 3-0, and then Jonathan Rodriguez wins a penalty, which I thought was a little soft, but there's no question about it. Phil Neves has them playing really good ball, and it looks like they're kind of here to stay. Like, it's not like a fluke run of form. They're like where they're just hot right now and they're gonna cool off. They'll probably cool off from how hot they are right now. But I think they're just a pretty good team. All right, let's call it right there. Niko, thank you as always for laying down another episode of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. Always great catching up with you. I'll be back at it. Noah and I are going to be dropping a pod tomorrow, hopefully, and then I'll be back on it Thursday for Under the Lights. Going to try and line up a St. Louis guest for that. And like, comment, subscribe, rate 5 stars. Niko, you got anything like coming out this week with Pulso or Sounder at Heart or anything that you want to promote?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, check out our YouTube page for Pulso Sports, where I'll add every single press conference. If the Sounders at times they don't have their video guys, you can check that out at Pulso Sports. I'll also try to get a couple of exclusive interviews this week moving forward for what should be an interesting game against St. Louis. Also check out on Thursdays Soccer Down Here. You can look that up on YouTube. They also have a Twitch, and you can check out all my links on X. We do Thursdays with Niko, where we'll break down the entirety of the MLS and the week that will be. We go over juice boxes, if you're into that sort of thing, in the favorites, the odds, and we did pretty good this week, so go ahead and check that out. And of course, Fridays, always what we learned this week with Jeremiah Oshan, of course, and that's been one that is getting a lot of good comments from you guys, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't. Always, obviously, the very best information at Sounder at Heart and the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Subscribe to Sounder at Heart, like the video, subscribe to our YouTube. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We're going to get out of here on that. Appreciate it. See you next time. Peace. Don't want to give money to the oligarchs, but love Lobbing Scorchers? Do we have a deal for you? MLS Season Pass is back on Apple TV with access to every single MLS match, including Leagues Cup and the entire Audi MLS Cup playoffs with no blackouts. It's not just the games, you get total access to the pre and post match MLS 360 whip around show in both English and Spanish, and get live look-ins and highlights from around the league, as well as full match replays and recaps. Now, you can support our show by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/Apple TV to purchase your subscription and support our show.
Lobbingscorchers.com/Apple TV. Please don't let the oligarchs win.